Hi, this is Helen McCaffrey back for the Independent Examiner today. And we're here again with Dr. John Castino, continuing on the saga that has become his life regarding his interactions with the prosecuting attorneys of Cape May County. The nightmare began in September of 2007.
Seven.
And it has continued to this day. But there's an elephant in the room that today we'd like to address, and it's this. When I tell this case to other professionals, to doctors, to lawyers, without, of course, using his name, and I explain what happened to him, that on a beautiful September morning, he was raided by a SWAT team and a plethora of cops and detectives, and his practice was shut down, and a couple months later, his license was taken away, and his patients were dissembled among the refugees of the world looking for a doctor to help them with pain management. When I tell people, even lay people, about this, they listen, and I can tell they don't quite believe me. And they say, there has to have been something more. Maybe he was just so clever and devilish that he got away with this. After 5 years of investigation and multiple detectives and police agencies giving him basically rectal examinations, they still were unable to catch him. That's what a mastermind. He's like the Moriarty of doctors in New Jersey. So we're going to address the elephant in the room. We're going to ask Dr. Castino directly what he thinks about those kinds of questions and inquiries. And morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
So what do you think, Doctor? I have people who are looking at me like I'm making up fairy tales or you're Moriarty and poor Sherlock Holmes is bedeviled by you because you keep escaping. How do you explain to people who want to believe that we have a criminal justice system and a legal system that really works to protect the innocent? How do you explain to them that this happened to you and you actually are completely innocent?
First off, everything that I say and everything that we discuss, I can prove. I have all the records. I have 70 to 80,000 pages of records, including all the trial documents. I have everything. So I can prove everything that I say to you. Right? The bottom line is, this is a conspiracy between the Board of Medical Examiners, this gal Sandra Dic up there.
Now, who is Sandra Dic?
She's the supreme person, the supreme deputy attorney on the board.
Is she part of the Department of Justice for New Jersey?
I think it's
Attorney
law.
General.
Yeah, I think it's public law and safety. But she runs the Board of Medical Examiners. And she's been doing this for 25, 26 years. She's the big cheese. Mm-hmm. And she has her little culprits under her. This character, Putesca, was the latest one that actually was the attorney involved under her to do the administrative law issue and everything else up there. Who is a confabulator, and I have all his lies, all his confabulation. I have everything that this man has written.
Well, why would they go after you, Doctor? I mean, you're sitting here in the end of the world, right by the ocean, at the end of the continent, treating people for pain, doing good work. Why would they target you?
Well, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you a few scenarios. Number one, I've done pain management for 40 years. When I was an emergency room physician for 5 years, that's all we do in the ER is pain management. I mean, we treat infections, of course, and we admit people with heart disease, heart attacks, congestive heart failure, and all the other acute medical emergencies. But we treat lots of pain management issues. So I've been doing this stuff for 40 years. In this office here at 404 Surf Avenue, I did a a great deal of workers' compensation, which is injury at work. It's all pain management.
Right.
And in the early 2000s, I'm going to say it's 2003 maybe, I decided to become certified to prescribe Suboxone for
What is
patients.
the process for becoming certified?
Well, you have to take the course by the DEA. The DEA gives a course.
Drug Enforcement Administration, which is a federal agency.
Correct. They give the course, then you take their exam, and then you get on their website to treat drug addiction. I had to go to Philadelphia, and I took the course with the Society of Psychiatrists back in 2003. Because as you well know, the psychiatrists in this country treat a lot of drug addiction.
Yeah.
So there are about 30 psychiatrists and me in this class. Took the class, took the examination, and then I got on the DEA website to treat addiction. Now, I was the only physician in Cape May County to treat addiction. And you know, back in the early 2000s, everything was out there: marijuana, cocaine, heroin. But the heroin issue, big as it was not nearly what it was today, or what it is today. A little more expensive. Where today it's cheap as you know what, cheap as doo-doo. Okay. So at any rate, I'm the only guy doing it. And then they started with the methadone clinics. And every county had a methadone clinic. And the people in Cape May County go into the methadone clinic. And you know, methadone is oral heroin. That's what it is.
Synthetic?
Synthetic oral heroin. That's what it is. So if you're in the methadone program, you are taking methadone on a daily basis. You must go to their clinic every day, and there's a line a mile long.
Oh, yeah.
You can ask anybody in this county about the lines and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people protest against it. But the poor people involved in this, and believe me, there are a lot of good people that are addicted. Believe me when I tell you that. They're not all the scourges of the earth. There's a lot of good people that because it's an illness.
Yes.
It's a terrible, addiction is a terrible illness. At any rate, these people have to work. They're carpenters, bricklayers, secretaries, they have to work. But they have to go to the clinic and wait in line to get their daily dose. When Suboxone came out in 2001, 2002, Suboxone, which is a combination of buprenorphine and naloxone.
Who makes it?
And I'm not sure, I forget the company name. But you may be familiar with naloxone. Naloxone is the spray or the injection or the pill, sublingual pill, which finally the state of New Jersey, the last state in the union, to okay naloxone. We got one of the biggest problems of heroin in this state. We're the last state in the country. Just like needle exchange, the last state in the country to give sterile needles to addicts.
Wow.
Just so you know. And I wrote a couple papers on that, and I gave them to you earlier. At any rate, Suboxone became available as a combination of buprenorphine and naloxone to treat addiction. And my name is on the DEA website, and patients started to understand that. And let me say one other thing. Let me preface it by saying this. You don't come to a doctor for addiction unless you really want to get over your addiction.
Right.
You don't have the money to go to a 30-day stay at some penthouse for 30 days where they couldn't give you anything, including Suboxone. And then they release you, and then 2 months later, you're back in the addiction issue. With Suboxone, it's an ongoing treatment program for a period of months, which is very effective. I mean, I treated over 300 people who were in addiction, mostly heroin, and in fact, like 98% heroin addiction. Although some were the oral opioids, okay, from any number of doctors. And I got referrals from many, many doctors in this Cape May County area, and some from Atlantic County as well. all you have to do is go on the website.
Mhm.
If you really want to kick this addiction, this is what you must do. So people went to the website.
Well, it sounds
get
to
the
me like you were
information.
helping a lot of people, and you were the only doctor in Cape May County doing that. Why would they target you?
Well, it's a conspiracy between the Board of Medical Examiners, Sandra Dic in Putesca, and Mr. Taylor, who is the county prosecutor. For whatever reason, and I can't think of a good reason, remember something. There were 4 people who stole prescriptions and wrote prescriptions
From your office.
from my office. They got into my lock cabinet through one of my secretaries, stole the prescription pens. They all went to jail. They all went to court. A couple of them went to jail. Right?
And you think in order to get perhaps a lighter sentence, a better deal, they said, well, we'll turn over this doctor because, at this point now, heroin addiction and drugs are becoming, the crime of the century. Do you think that's why the prosecutor would focus on that?
I'm not sure. But I am sure of this. 4 people stole prescriptions out of my office. 3 of them were prosecuted. The 4th got away with it because they never got the prescription pen. The cops never got the prescription. They were all, believe me, I attempted to get them all, right? So there were a few prescriptions out there that I never wrote, okay? Somehow, this got to the authorities, maybe through the pharmacies, who knows? And that's why they sent Joe Landis into my office in December of 2005, just to see what kind of physician I am and what kind of medical practice I have.
And he became one of your biggest advocates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He came in.
Well, why at that point, when they have their own detective saying this guy's not doing anything wrong that I can see, why do you think they would still continue the prosecution?
Very good question. And again, it's because of the conspiracy between the Board of Medical Examiners and the prosecutor. You see, the big kick today is prosecuting physicians with opioids. And since I am a person who treats pain management and who treats addiction, and this county is a very small county, as you know, very few physicians that do any of this work, and now there are a couple that do some of this work. It is my belief that they targeted me because they figured, well, let's go after him. We have to go after somebody in pain management because of this opioid crisis. So let's start on him, and that's why they sent Joe Landis into my office, who posed as a heroin addict, who wanted opioids.
So it sounds to me like you're saying when a problem becomes so egregious and the public starts making an outcry because their children are dying or their mates are dying or whatever, that the pressure gets to be such on the politicians, who basically are the prosecutors. Being a prosecutor in New Jersey is a political appointment, that we have to do something, and doing anything is better than doing nothing. And so they almost set out to find someone to target to make an example of. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. But after the Detective Landis issue, who of course I put on Suboxone to treat his heroin addiction,
right,
to save his life,
right? Yeah.
You would think that this whole issue would end.
You would.
I mean, common sense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you see, they got to get a doctor. And pioneers got to take the arrows.
Yeah.
And I took the arrow. Okay?
Yeah.
And of course, this guy Taylor is a problem. He doesn't know the law, number one. The law is State versus Vaquero.
Now tell us a little bit about State versus Vaquero. What year was it?
It's a published appellate decision. And it's published because the appellate court, the court of the state of New Jersey, wants all the lawyers in the state of New Jersey.
Right, it's a precedence that they want
It's
you
a
to follow.
precedence that they want to follow. And I'm going to just read you something out of Vaquero, if you don't mind,
Not all.
because this is the crux of Vaquero.
Vaquero was a doctor?
No, Vaquero was he was a doctor.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he was a doctor. And he was accused back in '76 of dispensing, giving out drugs, all right? And of course, he was wrong, actually, in what he was doing, just so you know.
Okay.
And it went to the appellate. And the appellate, in their wisdom, wrote the following. Under drugs and narcotics, I'm going to read this verbatim. A physician's license and registration authorizes him to dispense controlled dangerous substances, narcotics. But under this statute, he is immune from criminal liability when he dispenses the same in good faith in the course of his professional practice only.
Wow.
End quote.
It's very plain,
Very plain.
very clear,
And it goes on.
and very
know,
ignored.
Well, the peculiar thing is this. Not only is this moron over here, Taylor, doesn't know the law. Judge did not know the law. We had to give him the law, just so you know. Just so you know. After 5 years in that court over there, had to give the judge the law.
Wow.
Who gave it to the prosecutor, I'm sure. And then we gave it to all the assistant prosecutors. You say, A. Here's B, though. And B should be A. The Board of Medical Examiners ignore the law. Now, didn't they know the law? I mean, their own president of the board back in 1997, Dr. Rokos, who was a DO, president of the medical board of the state of New Jersey in 1997, wrote a letter, sent it to all the physicians in the state based upon Vaquero, stating that, look, people need pain management. If you have a patient who needs pain management, feel good about prescribing medication for the patient's pain. Don't feel as though the authorities are going to come running after you.
Oh.
Guess what?
Yeah, the authorities came running after you.
With a motor.
Some of this, it seems to me that you're saying, is just institutional bias, that once they target someone, they then build a case and without the facts. They build a case and then they find the facts later.
There's no question about it.
And unfortunately, that has happened on more than one occasion.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are a number of physicians, currently under the scrutiny, and this has been this way for the past 15 years, under the scrutiny for the various medical boards throughout the country for opiates. Now, look, don't misunderstand me. There are some of these pill mill clinics that, they give a patient, 200 pills, and I'll see you in 3 months, 5 months, whatever. All of my patients, pain management. And remember, I've never given any drugs to anybody younger than 21, ever.
Right.
Okay, any opiates at all. But if you need pain management, you can feel free to come to my office, and I will interrogate you completely and be sure you have an injury. You bring your X-rays and everything else, and I'll treat you. But you must come in once a month. That's the prerequisite.
You only give them enough for 1 month.
1 month. 30 pills, sometimes 60 pills, if it's twice a day. And I make them sign my pain management agreement, which delineates every concept of pain management. And we'll go over that maybe at a later date.
Did your attorney ever go to any of these prosecutors and say, look, show me what law he has broken, show me the evidence, not one of your